designed to be collaborative calls, so we'll allow time for you guys to unmute yourself, ask a question at any point, and you can also utilize the chat throughout the call. We'll keep an eye on that and make sure any questions or comments are read out loud so that we can discuss. And there'll also be some time for just group open discussion at the end, because we feel that this is a topic where it's most helpful to see what has worked in other Montessori communities. Someone else's strategy might be really beneficial for your school. So definitely we welcome participation in these calls. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. I see a lot of familiar names, some town hall regulars, but if you're here for the first time, we host these every single Thursday. They're always free to join. And we like to discuss different Montessori leadership and administration topics. We often invite speakers. We're always on the lookout for speakers. So if there's anyone you'd like to see from the Montessori community, or if you yourself want to speak, let me know. But today we're just having more of kind of an open forum discussion about navigating the busy parent experience, effective strategies for Montessori schools. Now, I've been looking around different community groups, and I've just been seeing a lot of discussion about, parents are not participating in school the way that they used to. We're noticing that there's a disconnect. Parents are just overwhelmed, busy with work. And this is something that we kind of need to build a couple of strategies to prevent, because as we know, it's so important for parents to have a sense of support and community from their school. And it's also important for them to be involved in school just for retention and for them to really see the full value of Montessori. And of course, when parents understand Montessori better, they can give their child a much better experience, a much more well-rounded experience. So just a brief overview about what we're going to be talking about today. So we'll discuss and address the challenges first that we've been noticing in the community when it comes to having working parents. Because it is a challenge, it is a unique challenge, but it's definitely something that we can adapt to. We'll talk about different communication platforms and what methods are best for reaching busy parents. We'll talk a little bit as well about event participation. Usually events are a big part of being in a Montessori community, and it's something that's crucial. We'll also talk about a couple of open house adaptations for working families. So how can you adapt to fit their needs? And this is where it will definitely be helpful for you all to share what tweaks and adjustments you've made in your own community and share your experiences with that. We'll also talk a little bit about building school partnerships and setting those expectations early, because I think it's crucial to set expectations about what you want families to participate in. As part of the enrollment process, it should be very much laid out that Montessori is usually not something that is similar to a daycare model. It is not somewhere where parents drop off their kids and pick them up and they don't have to think about anything else. It's very much a school and a philosophy and an approach to learning. And we'll also just cover a couple of key takeaways that I hope will be helpful, and then we'll have some time for group discussion. While we'll have time for group discussion at the end, feel free to unmute yourself or drop something in the chat throughout the call. First, I'd love to get to know each other. You can do this in the chat or you can unmute yourself. I'd love to hear where you're joining us from and why specifically did you join today's call? What are the particular challenges you're facing with current families and involvement? And what would you really like to get out of today's discussion? So I'll allow just a couple seconds for everyone to share, so it gives me a better idea of what to address.
I'm happy to share. My name is Tina Davidson. I'm from Lupine Montessori School. We're in Lockport, Illinois. And I think that we put together some really creative and amazing programs for parents, and we just cannot get the attendance. And because we have families who have been here for a while, we do go through 9th grade, then they'll say, oh, I already saw that, like, oh, I've already been to that. So that's a real struggle for us.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. See here, we have some people joining us from Crystal Lake, Renaissance School. Great. All right, well, hopefully we can provide some ideas and strategies to improve that attendance. Heidi here says, parents are extremely busy, parent ed, family nights, etc. is an uphill. I find the sensitive period for parenting is toddler. After that, they seem pretty closed off. And that checks out to me because I think, toddler years are one of the most challenging in the sense that parents need to be vigilant at all times. And once that chapter is over, they think it's smooth sailing from there. But in fact, it's still so valuable for them to come in. So I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm sure you're not the only one feeling that way, Heidi. All right, that gives me kind of an idea of where everyone is. All right, so the challenge that we're facing here, we are seeing dual career households, which means it's hard for parents to even have time to be with their own family, let alone do things for the school and participate in events. Demanding schedules, parents may work long hours, travel for work, or have irregular shifts. Um, there's that role overlap, balancing work, family responsibilities, extracurriculars. It can be very exhausting and it can lead parents to burnout. And of course, we are seeing the increase of remote work demands. I think sometimes remote work can be wonderful because it does allow for flexibility, but other times parents might end up working extra hours because they're just at home and they might not realize it's not like they have to leave the office at a certain time. So all of this can present challenges. What we've also noticed is that parents do have a desire for connectivity. A lot of schools that have kind of switched back to more in-person events have noticed that the parents that do attend are really grateful and it's a great experience for them. But it's just about making it possible. They need that help, they need the flexibility. So it's about meeting in the middle somewhere and also accepting that not every parent is going to be at every event, but what can you set that is a reasonable expectation for parents? Um, so again, despite parents being very busy, we are also seeing parents that are very informed and want to know about their child's education. They're also seeking transparency. Busy parents, they just want things to be very clear. They want updates. They want to see their child's progress, and they want to be reassured. Especially busy parents, they sometimes feel like they might feel a little bit guilty or disconnected for not being able to have the time that they need, but they do crave that communication. So that's somewhere where we can help them. And of course, they need to be able to trust in school communication. They may not be as present day to day, and they may rely on schools to communicate a bit more. Um, so it's important to foster this in order to build a stronger partnership there. So our goals really is kind of to meet their needs for convenience, which sometimes creates more work for us, I think in the beginning, but maybe once we create a system in our schools where we can understand that this is the new normal, I don't think we'll be in a position as a society to necessarily go back to, um, you know, having the majority of parents having, one parent at home, one parent at work. It's probably going to be the standard moving forward that both parents are going to be working. Um, Obviously, there's unique cases for every family, but it's something we're going to have to adapt to. So something that can help is on-the-go information. Parents need quick, mobile-friendly communication, text alerts, email summaries, app notifications. All of this is important. Um, for events, do this as well. You always want to make sure that the communication is very clear. Brief but informative updates, bullet points, highlights, visuals are effective. Value-driven content as well. Parents need to understand why each thing that you're communicating matters. For instance, emphasizing how a message can help support their child's Montessori experience at home and make them more likely to engage. And there should also be a preference for centralized information. So it's great to have kind of one platform or one place where parents can look for events, announcements, schedules. Maybe you have a parent portal on your website. Maybe you use some type of app or platform like Brightwheel or Transparent Classroom where you communicate with parents and they can find everything that they need. But this is important because busy parents, they don't want to have to keep checking multiple platforms. And they don't always read every email or every text. So it's nice for them to be able to go to one place and see everything at a glance. So this will help, you know, you at least communicate what is needed. Doesn't mean that every parent is always going to check or be consistent with that on their end, but it does help to have things laid out this way. Um, Again, with busy working parents, it's important to have consistent and effective means of communication. Luckily, technology has made this easier. Something that I think every school does is the digital newsletters. Um, it's important to have platforms in place. You can use a Montessori CRM, a client relationship manager, or something like MailChimp. Um, but newsletters are important to send out. And, you can always remind parents about newsletters via text as well. You don't only have to send it via email. Sometimes parents are more likely to see things if it's an SMS. Another thing that might be helpful is weekly highlights. So we live in the world of, just quickly consumed short form media nowadays, things like TikTok and Instagram Reels. And parents like to see just the meat, the meat of of what they need to know. They don't need a whole bunch of information. Some parents might be really appreciative of your blog, but some they just want to see the pictures. They just want to see what activities were done that week. And that makes them feel more connected to your school. So a couple things you can do here. You can offer a weekly highlight where you have photos and you give parents a visual window into their child's daily experience, fostering connection and involvement. Things like Class Dojo, which allows teachers to share photos, videos, and daily highlights. I would say probably weekly if you're doing a special event or something like that. Seesaw is another one, designed for student portfolios. This lets parents see their child's work and weekly activities with images. This is probably really good for those upper elementary, adolescent, more project-based work because parents love to have insights on that and really see, wow, this is setting, my child up for success. Look what they're able to create. So that's great for kind of the older programs. And then also Google Photo Shared Albums is great. You can share photos within one classroom. So for each classroom, you can have a shared photo album that only parents can access, which is kind of a safer, more private way to share daily updates that isn't being publicly posted on social media. I think a tip here is, highlight a few activities or special moments from the week and keep captions simple if you even have captions. It's not necessary to. Um, and if appropriate, consider student-led photo sharing to showcase their perspectives. Again, this is great for adolescent programs. You can have a shared album and have a student manage that or help you manage that. So this can be a way for those busy parents that may not be able to come to the events, that may not be able to participate as much as you may want them to still feel a sense of connection and see the value. Ultimately, this is going to help with retention. It's going to help parents understand our approach better and really see that it's worth it. Social media, of course, is another way to connect and communicate with busy parents. It's the on-the-go access of social media. Parents can access updates anywhere, anytime on their preferred devices, making social media ideal for busy schedules. It's also a lot more casual, so they feel a little bit more like it can just be easy viewing. It doesn't have to be something like they have to go check in a parent portal or make that extra effort. Chances are parents are going on social media at least once a day anyways, so they might be able to see something from your school. And of course, the real-time updates, things like Instagram stories, or maybe even a Twitter that can help with, more up-to-date alerts. I do recommend focusing a little bit more on Instagram as we try to reach the millennial parent demographic, just because that is their preferred social media platform. But you are welcome to use Facebook as well, Twitter. I think those are probably the most important. I know some schools have asked about LinkedIn. I don't know how effective LinkedIn is for your Montessori school as much. It's more of a networking app for careers, but it doesn't hurt if you want to post somewhere, please do. A couple of more tips. Just provide clear and timely communication about upcoming events. Anytime you have an event, you can always send, an SMS reminder, maybe a last minute RSVP check-in. You can release an annual school calendar at the beginning of the year with all of the events marked in advance so that parents can kind of set those days aside. And another thing is you can set a minimum requirement for attendance and participation for such events. So let's say you have, 5 parenting events throughout the entire school year. Parents have to attend a minimum of 2. It doesn't have to be both sets of parents, but at least maybe one parent from each unit would have to come and participate, one guardian. Um, and also utilize flyers and creative reminders so that families don't forget about events or important functions. Remind them at carpool, maybe you have kind of a little breakfast table set up the mornings that you're doing, like a coffee table the mornings you're doing parenting classes, and you hand out little flyers about it and just remind parents tonight, we really expect you guys to be there at 6 p.m. For our session. Sometimes they need these last minute reminders because they are so inundated with other things because of work and having children, and it can be very demanding. So just these little reminders, I think, can be helpful. Um, Tips for communicating with busy parents. I've said it, but short and sweet is the best way to communicate. Bullet points really filter down your text. A couple weeks ago, we had a town hall about utilizing AI as a Montessori administrator, and we talked a lot about the free AI that's out there, like ChatGPT. Maybe when you write a message, plug it into ChatGPT and see if it can make it shorter, if it can break it down into bullet points, because it really makes things a lot more likely to be read. Consistency is also key. So schedule a regular communication, so weekly or bi-weekly newsletter. This way parents get in the habit of checking that regularly. They know, oh, every Tuesday the newsletter goes out, or the first of every month the newsletter goes out. And lead with the most important details. Never bury the lead. Always lead with, this is happening this week, or this is what you need to know. And then you can kind of go into the details further down. But it's important to really offer the important stuff first and provide resources. School events. This is, I think, probably the biggest challenge when it comes to um, getting working and busy parents involved. I think parents, what we've noticed across communities and what people are saying is that they are craving that sense of community. And I think after COVID, they're really looking for those in-person events. It's important to be flexible and allow that participation to take place. So let's look at some strategies. I see here in the chat. Parents tell us they want community, party, events, Fall Fest, Valentine's Day, and they're well attended. Any type of Montessori parent education is not. They do not think they need or want education from us. We want them to understand more about Montessori for the good of their child. So this is where I think setting a minimum requirement of attendance is crucial because and it's usually the parents that don't think that they need the parent education that don't come up. They're usually the ones that need it the most. So this is where I would set, a minimum requirement. And then for the parents that don't show up, maybe give them some homework or set up a one-on-one meeting where you can just briefly discuss what was covered in the class, or record, if it's like a virtual session, record it and force them to fill out like their thought, like a couple of notes on it. But I think finding those ways to get them in and making it a little bit more mandatory. Obviously, we cannot force them to do that. If they don't want to, they don't want to. But I think those types of expectations can be a little bit helpful because obviously they're coming to those kind of more festival events because their kids are there. So they're like, oh, it's quality time with our kids and it's fun and they're going to remember this. But there's so much value in them coming for the parenting courses. Also sell them on the parenting courses as part of your offerings when you're giving tours. Say, we don't only educate children here, we also offer parent education, and we feel very strongly that every parent that enrolls takes our parenting classes. This is such an opportunity for all families to come together and support their children. And it is mandatory to attend a minimum of the parenting events. And you can say that on the tour. Make it known. So accessibility and various times and childcare options. We've had a couple of discussions on just kind of participation in school events where people have offered some amazing ideas. So things like offering a range of different event times to accommodate different schedules, such as morning or evening sessions. Also providing both in-person and virtual options for events and classes to cater to parents' preferences and needs. So you can do something very similar to this, where it's a Zoom call and you have parents register and they can join from their pajamas, after they put the kids to bed. That's another option that might make things a little bit more accessible to them. You can take a list of every parent that attended that live, and you can personally also have your teachers reach out to the parents that weren't in attendance, kind of not scolding them, but saying, "Oh, we noticed that you weren't able to make last night's session. Is there any way I can share? Today at Carpool, I'm going to share a pamphlet with you about everything that we discussed. If you could, I don't know, write your thoughts or something. Maybe you can give them an assignment or just hand them the resource, but kind of let it be known that you noticed they weren't there. You can also offer childcare options during these meetings. We had a school that said that they kind of opened up their home environment classroom or classroom for parents to drop off their children for that hour. And they also provided pizza. So it was a great benefit for parents because by the time they left the parenting session, their child was fed and ready to go home and go to sleep, and they were able to get that parenting class. And of course, for parents who can't attend live sessions, like I said, require them to fill out a form or notes of takeaways from the sessions that were recorded. So you can kind of still, the most important thing is for them to get the information really, to really understand, oh, this is important for me. So that's another kind of strategy you can take. Another thing is collaborative planning. Involve parents in the planning process for events and classes. So if you have a parent committee or something like this, or some type of parent advisory, uh, look at them to input topics, because a lot of times Montessori schools are great at offering, oh, this is what we do in the classroom, or these are the materials, or this is our approach. When really, if you kind of lead with topics that address parenting pain points. Ask parents, what are the topics that you guys need help on? Is it screen time? Is it tantrums? Is it toilet training? We want to offer you a class that you will show up to. And so maybe you can have your parent committee ask the wider community, set a list of topics that are requested. Maybe you have 2 mandatory topics that you feel very strongly about for each year, and then the rest can be more recommendations from the community. What happens there is that because they have input in those topics, they're based off of their requests, they are much more likely to show up or watch the recording or participate in some way. So it also offloads some of the work from ourselves as administrators or our teachers, because we can kind of say, oh, okay, we don't have to come up with the ideas for every single parenting topic. You can also have parents, say what kind of dates will work best and what formats. Do you want more virtual? Do you want more in person? And take a survey here and there when it comes to your events, or have the parent committee do it for you. You don't have to do it all yourself. That's just another idea. This is where also parent ambassadors can be a big help. Definitely utilize your parent community. So obviously, not every parent is going to have the time, especially with working parents, but you might have a handful of parents that are very highly involved in the school. Recruit those parents to become ambassadors and advocate for the value of attending these events and classes. Have them send out the invitations, have them talk to other parents. They can help pass out flyers or encourage other parents to come. You can also have students do this. If you have older students, it's great. I recommend it. And it also, again, just delegates a little bit of the task and the work that goes into organizing these events because you do put a lot of work into it. So you want to make sure that the value that they offer is actually received. Another thing is hosting parent socials. It's interesting because it's just what Heidi mentioned in the chat earlier, that parents are sometimes more interested in showing up to those fun events that aren't necessarily about Montessori parent ed, that are more likely to get attendance. So sometimes what we can do is we can utilize things like a social, like a book club or a coffee meet or potluck, fairs and festivals to hand out parenting resources to families and for them to build connections within the community so they can get to know other parents. What happens here is that parents, they make friends, they feel more welcome in the school community, and they might be more likely to come in for those parenting sessions when they feel that they know someone else, or they don't necessarily have to take everything so seriously. You know, they can share their parenting experiences in a safe place. Um, and this is also what people are craving because usually with both parents working, it can be very isolating. It can be very difficult to find the time to cut out to build these connections. So if you offer a safe space for it, it will be very beneficial to your community. So, you know, and again, this is something you can have your parent committee plan. So things like book clubs. Maybe you have a parenting book club with fun meetings where parents can discuss various parenting books. There's so many Montessori parenting books out there that are great. You can also do coffee meets. This is great to do kind of in the morning. Maybe you have a little coffee booth and parents can grab a coffee and say hello to each other after they drop off their child. Potlucks, this is great at the beginning of the year to introduce kind of new parents to current families, and it can be a very casual environment just to get to know one another and talk about, you know, hey, what parenting events are we planning on going to this year? You know, I know we have to go to two, but which ones do you think are the best for us? Um, so something like that can be a great environment for it. And of course, fairs and festivals, which usually are highly attended. But I think, again, this is just a place that's fun and not necessarily about talking about parenting. And sometimes what we also do notice is that some parents leave parenting meetings feeling really great and elated. They have all these tools. And sometimes it can be very daunting. They don't want to feel judged. Um, they might walk away being like, "Oh, how do I implement all of this?" So have a mixture of fun and education-based events so that parents can feel like their experience is a little bit more well-rounded. Next is adapting open houses and tours for busy parents. We've been in the Montessori marketing space enough to know that school tours and open houses are really what sell Montessori. So getting those families through the door to see our classrooms and to meet us is a crucial part of our enrollment process. And it can also lay the groundwork for your expectations, and just how they can really benefit from your community. So a couple things you can do. I know a lot of schools did virtual open houses during COVID, or you offered something like this. You can do something pre-recorded, or you can do live virtual sessions. And this is something maybe you can offer once or twice a month. But something like this can be really helpful for parents that just don't have the time to carve out, you know, an hour or so out of their day, to come in person, especially when you think that these parents are probably worried about touring multiple schools. So it's not just 1 hour for your school. It might be a total of 4 hours for 4 different schools, and it can become very overwhelming. So offering this as a choice, can be beneficial. Flexible scheduling is another thing. So I recommend offering multiple time slots, of course, that are realistic for your schedule as well. I would include a couple of early morning sessions, maybe once or twice a month, you have kind of a before work tour, or you can do an evening tour or a weekend tour. So maybe once or twice a month, you offer a Saturday group tour or something like that for parents. Um, but this can help accommodate different work schedules. Reminders and notifications are also important. I've heard so many schools have no-shows to tours that have been booked. So it's important to send reminders, confirmation before their scheduled time to come and visit. I also think it's important to provide very clear and easy registration for each time slot. So have automated touring available on your school website. There are many school websites out there that I have seen that the only way that a parent can book a tour is to call the school or to email. For a busy parent, this is just an extra obstacle for them to have to deal with because, again, they're probably not just looking at your school. They might be visiting many locations. So make sure it's easy for them to be able to register. This is a huge benefit, and it's just going to show them that you're flexible and adaptable to their needs. On those tours, focus on what values will actually support working families. So, what do these parents actually want to hear on their tours? Luckily, we can showcase how Montessori prepares children to become really confident and independent learners. This is a key benefit for busy parents wanting to foster resilience and responsibility in their children. Talk about how your school is a supportive community. Include all parent involvement options and how they're adaptable to different schedules on the tour. So talk about it. Set the groundwork very early for this is what we offer parents. We don't just offer things for children here. And draw connections between Montessori principles and the practical skills they foster that will benefit both children and parents in busy households. I think we have a philosophy that really helps create these powerful and independent children, and that's something that is a huge benefit to working parents. So, hopefully through Montessori education, the child will become more capable in their own home. They'll be able to do things themselves eventually. So this is something that you can let parents know, if you want a confident and independent child, Montessori is the right choice. The personalized follow-up process is also important. This is a great way to really get through to busy parents, I think, because you want to build those connections with them. So having or offering some individual Q&A sessions, maybe this is something that they also have the option to schedule, or they can call you and you can have an informal Q&A session with them. Personalized welcome packets as well. This is great. I will recommend in the welcome packet maybe offering an insight to all of the different parenting events that you host and organize every year. You can also offer virtual meet and greet options, so allow for smaller group sessions with classroom teachers or current parents to discuss day-to-day experience and Montessori's benefits. This can be kind of an alternative to a virtual tour. So maybe instead of a tour, you might offer a virtual meet and greet. Tips as well for just follow-ups is always follow up any tour with a thank you email or a phone call that includes just relevant resources and more information on how parents can learn more about Montessori. It's important for them to see that you value their time and interest. So these are just a couple of tips for that. I think this is what's going to make a big difference with the participation of families that are very busy. Most Montessori school leaders, they want more families to understand the importance of their involvement and not just the fun events, but coming to those parenting classes at every stage. This is why it's so important to set those expectations from early on. So here are a couple of things you can do to ensure that. So a huge one is parent commitments. I recommend having something like this as part of the enrollment process, or maybe this is something that you send out every year, just as a reminder to parents that, hey, here's a welcome pack for the 2024-2025 school year. Here's all of our events for the year. Here's our parent commitment form for you to fill out. We can't wait to build community and welcome you all for a great school year. So in a parent commitment form, it would really be an outline of parent events throughout the year and kind of them understanding, hey, this is what's expected of me, because obviously they know what they expect of you. They probably expect too much of you sometimes. You kind of need to relay that you also expect things from them and that in Montessori, we value a parent and school partnership. And you can also set expectations in your handbook, which I think is important. So here is a sample of just a parent commitment form. This is just a very basic one that we have in our Montessori Thrive collection. So it says here to be an involved parent on behalf of my child. And there's a list of things. So I will do my part in the programs, parties, and special events so that my child will not only have a wonderful memories or good times, but of a parent who cared enough to be involved. You can also add like I will attend at least 2 out of the 5 parenting events the school hosts this year. So in this one, it says, I will attend all parent education classes and will make my parenting responsibilities a priority. You can always amend that to make it a little bit more flexible for working parents. As I learn, I will do my best to follow Montessori principles in our home so that my child has the best possible opportunity to learn and grow with consistent support at home and at school. I will visit the classroom and observe my child 1 hour a semester or a year, depending on how your school does this. I will attend parent-teacher conference each semester. I will follow up all the guidelines in the parent handbook so that my child and other students may reap the full benefits of the educational opportunities here. And then they can sign. I think doing something like this at the beginning of every year, while it's not a binding contract, it really lays out what is expected of parents. Also, if you have an orientation at the beginning of the year, you can hand this out there. Then everyone is looking at it together. They're kind of holding each other accountable, perhaps. So I recommend having something like this. You can also have a philosophical agreement. This sample is also available on Montessori for you to download and edit if you need. And this is really just more about saying, hey, we want your child to reap the full benefits of Montessori. You know, this is a school, this is not a daycare. They are expected to attend. You know, you are expected to participate. So it just gives them an idea a little bit more about what they're signing up for and that it's not a daycare, because there is a lot of misconceptions out there that, you know, for the toddler ages or for the primary ages, it's a daycare, it doesn't matter. But it's not the case with Montessori. We feel it's very valuable to have parent commitment forms as part of the enrollment process, but I think, you know, having that one I showed a couple slides ago can be a great thing for you to offer at the beginning of every school year. You can later even reference this document if there are issues with parent involvement down the line. If you notice, you know, there is a parent that is really struggling, isn't coming to anything, their child is not adjusting well, you feel that they're not reaping the full benefits, maybe you can call them and you can always have this letter to reference, be like, look, you know, you signed this letter at the beginning of every year because we feel strongly that this is a partnership. How can we better help to make sure you get the resources that we're offering, because we really feel it's important, you know, and have a discussion. Probably very few cases where you will absolutely need to do that, but it's always great to have something like that they've signed and said, hey, we're committed. Parent handbooks are also a great place to talk about expectations. You can include an outline of annual parent events, how often parents are expected to participate in certain events throughout the school year, and you can discuss the importance of observation. Are these mandatory in your community? So if you absolutely require parents to come in for an observation, they can't get out of that. And they can't get out of that, and they can't get out of going to your parenting events. They have to at least participate in this many. This is crucial. It's important. Doesn't matter if they've been in your community for 1 year or for 5 years. Here's an example of a parent commitment clause from the parent handbook sample we have on Thrive. So it's just, as a parent, you can expect to honor our mission, maintain a prepared environment that meets the highest standard. You can expect us to do this, and then we can expect you to do this. So it's a trade-off, and it really shows you can expect this from us. You will have the best environment that we can provide. You will have trained and educated staff. We will offer a safe environment for your child, but we expect the following from you as well. So I recommend including this. Just some key takeaways. I think this is always a difficult topic to navigate because we never want to make families feel overwhelmed or like they're not doing enough. It's difficult to find a balance between asking too much of them, and actually offering support. So we have to constantly check in with ourselves and with the families in our community and see how we can support them on their journey. So um, in Montessori, we're very great at being gentle yet firm. And I think we need to practice this with families within our own community as well. So, how can we do this? We can involve them more in the planning process. We can offer flexibility. We can improve communication and make it very consistent. And then if it really becomes an issue, I think it will most likely be a handful of isolated cases where you might need to intervene or have a conversation with the parent on how you can better support them. But always going in with an open mind and open heart, because I don't think any parent is purposefully ignoring the events or shooting everything down. And just checking in with parents to make sure they feel that they have the resources they need. So I think clarity is very important. So ensure that parents are well informed about the existence, the purpose, and the benefits of parent involvement in the community. So, use various communication channels such as newsletters, emails, and your school website to share information and make it easier for parents to get involved and adapt to their needs. And a great way to do this is, again, having a parent committee, checking in, seeing what flexibility you can add to your overall parent event schedule. I think a welcoming environment is huge as well. We don't want parents to feel intimidated. Um, I've heard stories from Montessori parents that they go in for a tour. It's so much information for them to take in all at once, um, that they might feel overwhelmed or intimidated or like, oh, this isn't the right fit. I don't feel qualified enough as a parent. Instead, always offer resources and assistance. Emphasize that all parents are invited and valued, regardless of their level of involvement or experience. Never make a parent feel really bad about not being able to be involved. Instead of saying, why do you never come to our parenting classes? Say, we notice you're not in any of our parenting classes. Is there a way we can make sure you get the resources because we feel they're so valuable? We can always send you a recording, we can send you a pamphlet, but we really think it would be just so helpful for every parent to have access to these resources. Um, Make sure your mission is very clear and make sure that families understand the purpose and goals behind everything that you do, your messaging, your mission, your events. They really need to know that. Another thing that you can do, this is another tip, is as I mentioned earlier, offer an orientation session for new parents to introduce them to, um, you know, other parents and the goals of the parent community throughout the year and provide information for how they can get involved. Um, it's great to have a welcome event and it doesn't have to be something formal. It can be something like a coffee meet and greet or a potluck. Does not have to feel in any way, you have to be here from this time to this time. It can be like drop by, get the resources, get to know a couple of parents, and go home. Another thing is diverse opportunities. So we have parents that have the time and bandwidth to volunteer hours a week or, do a lot more than other parents, but allow different opportunities for parents to volunteer, be involved, participate. So some parents, they might have the time and flexibility to attend more in-person events. Some parents, they might really want to volunteer and do help with material preparation, but they cannot come in during those school hours. So maybe they can do things at home to help out the community. Let families know that even a little goes a long way when helping the school. And um, just find a diverse level of entry for parents to participate in your community. Doesn't have to be all or nothing. And again, highlight the benefits of participating in parent events or the parent association, such as networking with other parents, just building friendships and community, gaining insights to school activities, having a positive impact on school community, and making friends and connecting with a wider community of parents and caregivers. Again, I think post-COVID, parents are craving community. It takes a village, and sometimes when we're so busy with work, we feel isolated, and we still need that village when it comes to raising children. So your school should always be a safe space for that. All right. Before we wrap up for just general discussion, I wanted to point out that we at Nido Marketing, we're doing an East Coast Montessori Growth Summit. So we're going to 4 different Montessori schools in the East Coast. So we're visiting New York City, we're visiting Philadelphia and Trenton, we're visiting Boston, and we're visiting Washington, D.C. These are free events, and they're aimed to kind of, in a way, imitate these in-person, a town hall, but in an in-person format where we'll provide snacks. You can network with other Montessori school leaders, and we'll give kind of a Montessori crash course where, marketing crash course where you can take some actionable strategies to grow your enrollment. So if you're interested in that, I'll drop the link to register. It'll be in January of next year. All right, now let's discuss. So how have you helped working families? What have been the biggest challenges? What resources or platforms have been the most beneficial to your school community? Any questions or ideas? I'll stop sharing so we can discuss before we wrap up for the hour. Here's Heidi. I think post-COVID parents want community, but they're also more shy and reluctant to be social. There's often a gap between what parents tell us they want and when they actually show up for. Is anyone else noticing this pattern as well?
I do agree with that, Heidi. We are getting that as well. I know one specific event that we're hosting. It actually starts next week, and we're doing a virtual call, and it's a parenting call about communicating with your youth and regulating emotions, and responding, and how to kind of thing. And that was a big ask from our community, and I think not even 50% signed up for it so far. So it could have been maybe the day, maybe the time. There's a lot of factors that could be in place, but we're going to see how it goes, and hopefully word of mouth after that will kind of sell the next one that we do, right?
Sure. I also find teachers say they want parents to have parent ed, but they don't want to stay late or come in on off hours. Um, sorry. Stay in on off hours, and they're uncomfortable around parents. Okay. So the teachers are uncomfortable around parents.
I think that they're for the most part for teachers. Heidi, tell me if I'm like on point or not, but yes, they want the parents to know more about the Montessori philosophy and how we do assessments, or how our community runs, but the teachers don't feel comfortable explaining it to parents and staying the extra hours to do the education. They'd rather, work with the children and have the administrators work with the parents instead. I don't know if it's intimidation or what it is, but
My guess is they're probably just so used to working with children day to day that it's definitely a change for them to talk to parents. With both groups, parents and teachers conflicted about what they want, confused, and what they're asking for is a tough topic. Another thing that you might be able to do, depending on your community, and that some schools do, is that they will hire a consultant or a parenting expert to come and give a class, whether it's virtual or in person. This is also, in the schools that have done this, I know my school did this. For some reason, parents were there was higher attendance because there was someone outside of the school coming in and sharing their expertise, and it didn't fall on the teachers. So that might be something that could help, because if the teachers really don't feel comfortable or aren't quite ready yet to present to parents, maybe hiring a consultant or a coach, parenting coach, or an expert with a Montessori background can be really helpful. And there's many that we've worked with our past town halls that do that. So if you ever need a contact, you can reach out to me. Vicky says, I agree with Heidi, and also notice teachers don't feel like they can or should present as the experts by leading these discussions. They might already also be a little bit burnt out, or they're tapping out because, their role as a teacher and maybe they don't quite feel equipped or prepared to teach parents. Something you can also do is always invest in an educator or two at your school taking a parenting coach class or certification class. Great ones are positive discipline courses, and that can maybe make them feel a little bit more empowered and equipped to lead those conversations. And he says, the main reason I want parent involvement as an administrator is because parents will bond with their child's teacher, but don't develop investment in the Montessori method and easily jump ship to another private school. And maybe this is something that you might need to discuss more with your educators and think about when hiring in the future, is maybe this is a prerequisite, is saying an expectation we have is not only nurturing relationships with the children in your class, but also the parents, and teachers are expected to give at least one session a year. You can suggest topics that you're comfortable presenting. If not, we have a prepared slide deck that you just have to read and be prepared to answer questions. But help equip your staff as well, because I think if that wasn't what they originally agreed to and then it's thrown upon them, maybe that's when they get a little bit uncomfortable. Like, hey, this wasn't in my job description and I don't feel qualified to do this. So maybe that's it, because it is nice to hear it firsthand from the teacher for those parents to really build that relationship.
Mila,
Mm-hmm.
what I have heard from the teachers is basically they feel that the primary responsibility is to provide a good education to the children. They don't feel that they're marketing people, they're not good at it, and they don't necessarily want to do that. So and I know there's one school in town, a well-known school, that basically requires the teachers, all the staff members to attend every social event, and they literally hate it.
I think if that's the case, and every community is unique, I would look at hiring a parenting coach or consultant to come in if you really want the parents to hear the messaging.
Yeah, I agree. That makes more sense.
Offload that from the teachers and let them kind of do their job. And also the parents, I guess they can always have the connection with the teacher during the observation or maybe parent-teacher conferences, and you can leave the classes and sessions to a parenting expert or a consultant. There are many, many Montessori consultants across the US. Some you could do virtual, some you could do in person. So I recommend seeing if you can find one in your area. We have a couple if you need some ideas, but I think if that's a challenge, definitely outsource.
I think probably a good bet is to have maybe a virtual webinar with an outside consultant that basically makes things more flexible for them. So that would be one way of managing it that may work out fairly well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, What you can also always do is maybe, depending on how big your community is, see or take a poll of any teachers that would be interested in leading conversations or having hosting classes. And maybe you can have a meeting once a year, and the ones that really don't feel comfortable, and maybe none are comfortable in your community, and then that's when you know you have to outsource it. But I don't know. In our community, we've had a mix where it was sometimes an outsourcing thing. Sometimes we did have staff that was like, "Oh, I feel confident about this topic and I can address it."
What is frustrating is that, we advertise consistently these parenting series that you guys offer to the parents to attend. And I do not know exactly how many of them do. My gut feeling is a very small number, if any. And I don't understand, because that's something they can do it. It's so much easier for them. It's in the evenings and the good topics. We'll all benefit from them. If they choose not to attend that, I mean, I'm not sure what else you can do to motivate them to do it further.
Yeah. I think it goes along with what Heidi just put in the chat here about our parenting events. We advertise them and we don't have parents participate. I think a lot of parents feel overwhelmed or even threatened by parent ed. And I think that's true. I think there are elements of parent ed that can be, like I said, sometimes parents feel away and walk away from those events feeling like, oh, am I being judged? Am I doing anything right? I feel like everything I've done this far is wrong. So yeah, it's a tricky balance. That's why I think it's also important to maybe have something more casual. If you're really noticing that parents are daunted, a book club, a parenting book club where maybe there is no teacher there. Maybe it's run by the parent committee and they organize book club meetings at a local cafe and they just all together read through the book. It's no judgment. There's no educator there from the school, and it's a little bit more casual. So every community will be a little bit different, and you can kind of sense out what parents are comfortable with, and getting feedback from parents as well. I think would be helpful. Maybe running a survey or just checking in and asking about how they feel about your events. Elizabeth here said you could offer an extra benefit to a staff member willing to do a parent ed, like an extra half or whole day off. There we go. That's a great idea, I think. And because it is work. Heidi says, I know as a new parent, I read a lot of pregnancy, baby sleep, toileting books. And then I hit my limit. It seemed like everyone had advice and often it was conflicting and I became overwhelmed. The internet is swamped with parenting advice. I think this is where, and this is maybe where we can be a little bit more trend-based, and where parent involvement in planning your events will be a game changer, because I think oftentimes we host these parenting events and we say, here's what we think you need to know. And parents don't always have the best response to that. Whereas, hey, what are the challenges? Like, do you want to know activities at home that you can do with your children? Do you want to know more about how to work through tantrums? What topics would be beneficial to you? And then they're telling us what they need rather than we're saying, here's what you need to learn. Here's what we feel. It can be a little bit passive aggressive without us intending it to be that way. And then we can always have one that's like, hey, this is just some facts you need to know about Montessori philosophy. It's not about parenting. This session is just about our approach. That doesn't seem as intimidating. And then, parents can request the classes that they need. And you can do this across age groups. For adolescents, it might be, we're really struggling with how can we support our child's mental health, during their adolescent years. This is something that we're worried about. We want to put a modern lens through it. Can we have a parenting class on this where we can all discuss it together? And maybe that can be more of, this is for you. This is a community. This is a safe place. We're not telling you what we think you need to know about everything. Says, yes, I agree. I feel like maybe shifting the focus from parent ed to understanding Montessori materials and curriculum and how we're different from other traditional education models. I recommend having a little bit of both. So doing something like Montessori Journey or just an intro to our materials, and maybe have a parent support session and you vote on a topic that you talk about, and you can talk about it with a Montessori lens rather than we're throwing a parenting class on this topic because we think it's important for you guys to know. They might not feel that way. They might not feel that it's important for them to know. All right. I'm dropping here the link to our East Coast Growth Summit. So if any of you are in the East Coast or know of any school leaders, feel welcome to check that out. It's a 100% free event. So we look forward to meeting you guys in the East Coast, and hopefully in the future, we can do some more in-person events in other areas. Thank you so much for everyone who joined. We had some really amazing comments, strategies, and ideas. Thank you, Heidi.
Camilla,
Yeah.
sorry, I know Tina wanted to share something about her software. I didn't know if
Sure.
she wanted to talk for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elizabeth. I don't know if many of you know about Neurana, but it is a new software that I'm developing. It's specifically developed for Montessori schools, and it does focus on a lot of the topics that we've discussed here today. So all I am doing is inviting you to come take a look at it at neurana.app. And if you want to get a demo, I would love to give you a demo.
I just dropped the link in the chat if anyone is interested.
Thank you.
Heidi, can you talk with Camilla about demoing it on a weekly call? Yeah. No, Tina, please get in touch with me about possibly showing it at one of our future town halls because we're looking for speakers. So if you're interested in that, reach out
I
to
would
me.
love that. I would love that. Thank you.
I'm
Thank
dropping
you
my
Heidi, for
email.
the suggestion.
I just dropped my email there in the chat. And please reach out to me as well. Anyone here, if you have any town hall topic ideas or suggestions or just things that you want to talk about, because I plan these very much around what you all want to talk about. This has just been a topic that's been discussed a lot in our community. So I try to plan these based off of what you guys need and what you guys would like to discuss. So anytime you have an idea, feel free to reach out to me. All right, great. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again for sharing your ideas, strategies, questions. It makes the conversation a lot more interesting when you guys are sharing. It definitely is just so much more constructive. So we really appreciate you all. All right, we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Yes.